This week,
if you vote in the affirmative, you will be charged with a felony.
Lawmakers return for a special session.
How many more? How many more? How many more?
Greeted by protesters seeking an end to gun violence.
I'm tired of a legislature that puts guns over students.
But they won't be heard.
Not just human beings, but criminal gangs come into these United States and into Tennessee.
This session deals with immigration, hurricane relief funding, and school vouchers only.
We're fighting for our future.
And like the last special session, protesters were physically removed.
Obviously, we're here to pass some vouchers and bow down to some lobbyists.
Representative
so I
Mitchell,
withdraw.
you're out of order. You're out of order.
And tempers flared among lawmakers.
Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Ayes 20, nays 13.
In the end, lawmakers finally approved relief funding for Tennessee hurricane victims months after the storm, approved a controversial immigration bill with criminal consequences for violators, and the governor's school voucher plan that in a recent poll showed 70% of Tennesseans opposed. Hello again, and welcome to another edition of This Week. On the third try, Governor Lee's school voucher plan wins approval. Other issues acted on during this just-ended special session: funding for East Tennessee hurricane victims and immigration changes to assist with Trump's mass deportation. But we begin with an issue that was not heard during this session: gun violence, as lawmakers were greeted by hundreds of Metro students and others seeking changes following the Antioch High School shooting.
Students against gun violence have had enough. They stood together fighting for their future and their lives.
How many more? How many more? How many more?
No matter how hard they try to take us down, we can say with confidence that we will continue to rise up and we will continue to fight for the multiracial, multi-generational future that we all deserve, because we all deserve to live free from the fear of gun violence.
Raw emotions from students were heard across the state capitol with one message: gun violence in schools must come to an end.
I'm tired of marching. My feet are sore and my soul is weary. I'm tired of a legislature that puts guns over students, but we keep fighting and we don't stop.
The father of the Antioch shooting victim, Jocelyn Correa Escalante, spoke from the Capitol steps, saying no family should ever feel his pain. We are united together, and we're going to keep fighting for justice for Jocelyn. Joining the students were parents of Covenant students who fought this fight at the state capitol before.
We need the same outpouring of love every single time for each and every baby. This is somebody's baby who is lost. This is not a statistic.
They could make every single school in this state a million times safer.
Yep.
With a flick of a pen, Governor Lee could do this.
Students say all they want is the freedom to exist without the threat of gun violence.
The first bill approved in the special session, a controversial immigration bill, creating an immigration enforcement agency and allows local officials to be arrested. Democrats call it unconstitutional. And during the debate, troopers removed women protesters from the hearing room.
Now, this is the only time we're going to have in Tennessee law that says if you vote in the affirmative, you will be charged with a felony.
Under a bill moving through the legislature, local officials like city council members could be charged with a felony if they vote in favor of so-called sanctuary policies for people in the country illegally. Supporters of the bill believe no lawmaker should stop the federal government from catching criminals who come to the U.S. illegally.
Not just human beings, but criminal gangs come into these United States and into Tennessee. And drug trafficking, human trafficking, which is something that should appall all of us, has been increased by this lawless border condition that was allowed to exist.
Other lawmakers believe this is unconstitutional to stop a lawmaker from voting what they believe their constituents want, citing that America's forefathers ensured lawmakers protection for their voting.
Have an oath to uphold the Constitution. And if we go to Article 1, Section 6, there's a speech and debate clause, which comes from the 1689 English Bill of Rights, which was a response to the British Crown's history of using legal measures to intimidate and punish legislators for legislative action. So the English king was punishing lawmakers in Parliament for how they voted.
Before the law moved forward today, state troopers removed protesters from the gallery.
We're fighting for our future.
But with the Republican supermajority, the bill easily passed in committee.
The second piece of legislation approved in the special session shouldn't have been controversial. Funding for East Tennessee victims devastated by flooding from Hurricane Helene last September. In a rare late-night session, several bills addressing recovery efforts won bipartisan approval. But things got a little heated after lawmakers swiftly voted down an amendment from a Nashville Democrat meant to give more money to homeowners rather than just businesses. He and an East Tennessee representative squabbled back and forth, with the conversation eventually circling around to vouchers.
I will withdraw this amendment because obviously we're not here to help these people in East Tennessee whatsoever. Obviously we're here to pass some vouchers and bow down to some lobbyists.
Representative
so I will withdraw.
You're out of order.
There's been a cloud that has hung over the flood funding. I am tired of hearing people in the other party politicize my district's needs and politicize their pain and their suffering and their devastation.
Yeah, I'm kind of hurt that my colleague would say I would offer a disingenuous amendment to help his people. I haven't put anything over any of their heads and say, if you don't vote for this, I'm not going to vote for your flood relief. My side hadn't said that one time. We got 24 votes that will vote for anything to help East Tennessee and help our people in need. But a lot of people have told these people, if you don't vote for this, it's going to be hard for us to help y'all with y'all's flood relief. And several of them have caved.
After President Trump's pledge to retake the Panama Canal, lawmakers are taking a closer look at the key shipping channel.
U.S. cargo accounts for about 3/4 of Panama Canal traffic.
These goods are the clothes on your back, the shoes on your feet, and the phones likely in your hands.
But some senators say those goods and national security could be at risk if adversaries control the Panama Canal instead of Panama.
We cannot turn a blind eye if Panama exploits an asset of vital commercial and military importance, and we cannot stay idle while China is on the march in our hemisphere.
Senator Ted Cruz and others questioned China's presence in the Panama Canal at a hearing Tuesday. It comes as President Trump promises to retake the waterway the U.S. gave to Panama in a 1977 treaty.
And we're taking it back.
The president argues that treaty is being violated, citing unfair fees on American shippers and China's growing presence.
America is sleepwalking into a carefully laid Chinese trap.
Senators like Missouri's Eric Schmidt point to Chinese ports on both ends of the canal and China's building of a bridge there.
China's made no secret of its ambitious policies to gain influence at ports throughout the globe.
Federal Maritime Commissioner Daniel Maffei says the U.S. should bolster its maritime strategy.
All of us should lose a lot more sleep than we're losing.
And FMC Chairman Louis Sola says the Senate should take another step.
Confirming a U.S. ambassador in Panama is critical to advancing our national and economic interests.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to visit Panama on his first foreign trip in office. In Washington, I'm Maddie Beertemple.
Now to our This Week cover story, we can tell you that gun violence remains top of mind a week after the Antioch High School shooting. Another Metro high school was sent into lockdown. It was a hoax, but several Nashville teenagers now face serious charges for making threats. News 2's My Owen sat down with the juvenile court judge about this issue.
Within hours of the Antioch High School shooting, a new threat began to emerge.
Unfortunately, gave them a roadmap of something to do.
Suddenly, Metro Police were faced with arresting nearly a dozen teens across Nashville, all of them accused of threatening violence against a school.
I don't think we were seeing any at the beginning of the year until the Antioch incident, and now the numbers have skyrocketed. It is extremely unnerving.
The latest incident happening Wednesday afternoon after police received a prank call warning of a gun inside the school. One of the first threats coming out of Knowledge Academy after a student became upset when his backpack was taken, telling staff if his headphones were missing, there would be an Antioch Part 2.
These youth just don't understand the gravity and the severity of what they're doing. They don't understand that how it emotionally affects everybody in our community. These school shootings have been a constant and they've been growing, and they are unnerving.
We sat down with Judge Sheila Calloway, since each one of these cases go before the juvenile court. She says what's most concerning is the use of online technology. Almost half of the threats made so far this year were on social media.
Parents need to make sure that they are supervising their social media accounts, that they're making sure that they're not receiving things that could be considered a threat, and making sure that they're not sending things that could be a threat.
For some of these youth, it's their first encounter with the court system. And even though many of these teens claim their threats were a joke, it's no laughing matter inside these doors.
We had so many parents here the other day for youth who had never been in the system before, never seen juvenile court building before, and they shouldn't have to be here.
And Judge Calloway says this has been a steady problem over the past couple of years. She now worries what more can be done to deter teens from making these types of false threats.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment.